We first encounter a woman named Charlotte at the beginning of the movie when she arrives to viewer level. Little Charlotte is quite devoted to the level, which is vast and wonderful, and she goes on a rant about it. She prepares and leaves for class to pick up her child after her diatribe. Charlotte notices that her child is scrubbing up in the pool after leaving for class. Charlotte tells her child a tale. Benjamin is the name of his child. Hey guys, welcome to our channel Mystery Recaps. To know what happens later, keep on watching the video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Charlotte ends the story, but Benjamin gets to hear another one. He now has time. The name of Charlotte's significant other, Bex, is revealed the next morning. When we see these two, we understand that their relationship is doing quite well. Charlotte then leaves for work. Also, we learn that Charlotte is an expert. In order to view a patient with a lot of body hair, Charlotte visits the clinic. Charlotte then develops a close relationship with the patient. At least towards the beginning of the movie, the two of them become close to Charlotte. Charlotte raised her game on this, so she could imply with her patient there after developing a strong relationship with that man. Charlotte then went to deliver a discussion in a school. The next day, a new patient arrives in Charlotte and gets busy. Then, she lowers herself to that patient's level and engages in sexual activity with him. Charlotte would often develop a close relationship with each patient. She continuously gets down on a patient's level and develops a close relationship with him. Charlotte and her better half are also close on a frequent basis. She did not, however, recognize the joy she experiences from spending time with her patient. Charlotte also discusses their marital relationship. Sure enough. The next day, Charlotte has a private conversation with an old patient. Charlotte was also required to attend the parent-teacher meeting at the same time, which was another obligation. In any event, Charlotte is running late, and when she shows up for the parent-teacher conference, Max is already there. Max asks Charlotte if everything is okay, to which Charlotte replies that everything is fine and she has no problems. The next day, Charlotte meets her at the construction site. Max explains to her that he has arrived early because he has to do some work. She had arrived to view the building from inside. Charlotte starts to walk around the building after that. When he first notices the labor, he notices an expert working there after some time. Charlotte the specialist recognizes him, and he asks Charlotte if she doesn't recall his meeting the doctor. Charlotte becomes agitated and begins yelling. Charlotte strikes the specialist upside the head as she tries to calm her down. The work falls to pieces. Charlotte strikes her once more as the labor starts. The next day, Max is seated next to Charlotte at the medical clinic, who is completely unaware. After some time, Charlotte regains consciousness, and a few days go by in this manner. Max had learned from that incident that Charlotte had engaged in physical contact with his patient. At that moment, Charlotte started seeing a therapist in an effort to salvage his relationship. A specialist is informed by Charlotte that Max and him don't get along well. Additionally, Max has absolutely no trust in him. What do you think why Charlotte and Max don't get along well? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. After a few days, Charlotte and Max seek medical attention from the doctor. Charlotte is questioned by the specialist about Max. Charlotte continues by saying that Max makes a great spouse. Also, they are acquainted and he is really intriguing and gorgeous. Sure enough. Also, Max addresses his preferences. The expert then asks if she can tell Max apart from her patient, with whom she had become friendly. At that time, Charlotte adds that Max and her patient don't have any similarities. Also, she enjoys the opportunity to speak with Max instead of the patient. She also perceives a difference. Max questions Charlotte about when she left the room and whether or not she was alone with her patient. Ordinary, Charlotte stays silent and fights the impulse to become anxious. The next day, Charlotte talks about a man who has a lot of body hair. Charlotte understands how that works. He struggles to accurately recall the patient's face after being alone. She just remembers that a man had peculiar nails. The news seemed strange. The doctor asks Charlotte, "For what reason did you choose your patient after learning that a man had a lot of hair on his body?" Which, despite all, has a few flaws. Charlotte advises me not to respond to this because if I do, her relationship with Max would definitely worsen. Later that, when the jet passes overhead, Charlotte laughs while sitting outside a building. The fact that Charlotte is a psychological patient becomes clear to us. Charlotte is next seen by herself in the courtroom where her preliminary hearing was taking place. These phrases, "He also had a case closed against him." Charlotte didn't feel the slightest bit of sorrow for her actions, even after this though. The court believes that Charlotte is not in a good psychological state when it first meets her. Charlotte's professional employment is also terminated, and her clinical license is also revoked. Next, we offer Charlotte and Max a test to see if they can determine to what extent Max is aware that Charlotte's psychological condition is off. He decides to give Charlotte another chance as a result. After 2 years, the scene is presented to us in a new setting. Maximum India is revealed to have relocated with Charlotte and their twin children. Charlotte is gradually recovering as well, and Max and Charlotte's relationship also begins to improve. After that, Max as Charlotte starts talking to an expert at the construction site when Charlotte shows up one day to see Max there. Max begins to believe that Charlotte has resumed her previous intimate relationship with someone else. He doesn't talk to Charlotte about this though. Due to Charlotte's lack of employment, there is now no work, so after a few days of being fatigued at home, she visits the site where Charlotte's legs are being built. Nevertheless, that structure was completed, thus Max cannot be found there. Now, Charlotte begins to promenade along the building's roof. Max realizes that Charlotte isn't home when he comes back. Max then wants to know if she usually goes out. The housekeeper then responds, well, she goes out often, which is when the incident occurs. At hearing this, maximum doubt sets in. Max spends a lot more time with Charlotte that night, and they start dating. The next day, Charlotte climbs to the top of a comparable building and passes out there, which makes her feel great overall. The following morning, when Charlotte leaves the house, Max follows her into the building. Eventually, after finding him sitting by himself in a corner, Charlotte laments that he has gone to the top of the building in search of her. He believes that Charlotte has started engaging in physical contact with someone else once more. Max departs that evening after seeing Charlotte in this state and doesn't even get a good night's sleep. The following day, Charlotte teaches her child to play the piano, while Max spends the finest time possible with his twin children. At night, Max visits her and they talk about love. Max and Charlotte are off on a trip the next day. Charlotte participates actively in this outing. The relationship between Max and Charlotte is currently quite developed. Whatever the case, Charlotte will no longer be able to decide whether to believe us. So guys, that's it for today. Check out this video on the screen to watch this amazing movie recap. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button and bell icon to never miss any exciting movie recaps.